Hello, dear friends of the Chacruna audience out there. It's Biela Bach again, blogging from the Arizona Psychedelic Conference, and I just had the opportunity to meet a wonderful woman that inspired me, and I had the honor to be moderating a panel where she was speaking, and I'm in her land, so I asked permission to be here and to talk to her. And thanks, Naomi, so much. She's Dine, or also this group is also known as Navajo. And she's from Arizona, and she is connected to peyote, has also had the adventure to travel recently to South America and try ayahuasca. So she's been around the block, and she's a woman, and she's a leader, and she has a lot to say. And let's hear a little bit about her story, and how did you start eating peyote, and what is peyote for you?
Well, for me, I grew up in the medicine road of peyote, which is practiced and used for healing in variety of different illness, or in a beauty way of, like a good schooling. So I took peyote as a young person, and not much as the adults would take, and so I basically kind of grew up with it, but not understanding the ceremony of it until I got older and had my own kids. And so there was some things that I saw in there that weren't healthy, and so I kind of walked away from that for a period of my life. And then once I start my own family, it was drawn back to the circle again. And I started putting my own tipi up and having my own ceremony for my family in that sacred way. And basically, for me, it was really asking the medicine, our sacred mother, which we call it as the Hima Aze. So that's a sacred plant medicine we call her. And so it was really dialoguing with her one-on-one and having to reconnect and rerouting me in my life, and having to gone through so much trauma as abuse, sexual abuse, and witnessing a lot of alcohol abuse in my family. And for me, it was healing a lot of that ancestral trauma of, our people having to go through that long walk too. And there was a lot pertaining in that resonated in the kids and in the grandchildren. So when I guess it would be saying it was a wake-up call for me when I had my own children. So I connected with the medicine, peyote, and in ceremony, wanting to learn my language again, wanting to learn the prayers and the songs. And all of that came through. And so, and so everything started flowing really well, and staying consistent and being respecting and having to be in prayer daily, and everything started to reveal itself, showing. And I see the result physically now to this day in my life, in my children's life, and in my grandchildren's life. So I have done some major internal work in pertaining myself and for the future generations and for my past ancestrals too. So for me right now, through the plant medicine and having to, I didn't just try ayahuasca. Ayahuasca called me the medicine about 3-4 years ago, actually. And the only time I see her and partake her is when she's calling me. And that's when I go do the work of really clearing a lot of ancestral. There's layers and layers. And so they always say, and the elder saying is that your work's never done until your hair turns white. And so I always look at that, and there's times I have some challenges, but those challenges are teaching, and it guides you on your road and your pathway, and accepting the challenges and honor them too in that way, so it's not so hard for you to walk that path. So I always stress in our Dine people, in our Dine way, is to walk the golden corn pollen path. Tadadin bike oinat means walking away, a beauty in that way. And so there's so much teaching in our culture, and we still practice and use, not even just in the peyote way. It's about the traditional songs and the chanting. Everything is in the song. all the healings in the song. And as a Dine people, we don't use the sacred medicine or plant medicine in these chanting songs. It's really the medicine is in the song. And so for me, I have connected back into my roots, and that's what it's about right now, is rerouting ourselves. So, many are lost and not connected, and we have had that connection that we need to reroute everybody. We had to help people, guide people in having to reroute them and getting back on their path and learning their medicine way and their healing way in so many ways. And it's about learning right now to expanding with the world and sharing our medicine way with many right now, because we are that generation now that, they've been praying for generations ago. And so for me, it's, yeah.
No, I mean, there's, so much you bring that, so many layers. So you're talking about how peyote helps with your personal trauma, your own history, but also a role that peyote has in helping Native Americans deal with cultural trauma, the traumas of colonization. And can you just try to focus a little bit on that and try to keep it short, because there's a lot of other things that I want to ask you. What is how do you think, this role, this resilience of Native Americans to endure colonization, and how has peyote helped in that?
For me, is the peyote is actually inviting others that are non-indigenous and non-natives and bringing them into the circle and actually helping them and finding their place in that sacred circle, praying and singing throughout the night, and sacrificing your body, having to sit there all night in that way, and actually be in oneness with the medicine and the fireplace, and just helping to clear those layers. And you don't know what it's wanting you to do, what work you're doing, until you're actually in the setting. And so there's many layers, like I said, is that we're clearing, and some don't understand what they're doing, but it's the medicine just telling you and guiding you what you need to do in that way when you're sitting in the medicine, with the medicine. And sometimes you don't need much. It just takes just maybe not even a half a teaspoon, and that's just as powerful, even just to touch her. And when you're in the sacred circle, when the medicine's going around in that setting, even to touch her, that's how powerful she is. And to having to clear that layers for the children, like I said, it was the ancestral trauma. We've been all of us have been traumatized in so many ways. And, back in the Europeans and about the women being, victimized and abused, and having to also, for the medicine is a female, and so that needs to be brought back up too. And the peyote is teaching me that, to bring that back and finding our power again. Power not as to be there, but it's like a warrior of light. That's how I see her. And so it's really been a really blessed road for me to be called to do this work. And so, yes.
So do I get it right that you're kind of implying that it's a time for non-native people to also join native people? I understand a lot of native people don't like non-natives to sit in their circles and eat peyote with them, and there's also legal challenges regarding that. Is it a topic that it's a bit controversial? Are you saying that in the school that you go and with the people that you practice, the presence of non-natives in peyote circles is welcomed?
It has to be. Our grandchildrens are different races. They're not full-blooded Navajo. Many of the tribes now, the children are coming in as different cultures, different races of many different, ancestors that are bringing in. We have to welcome that. So we don't. If they're just, for example, my grandson Simone, I'm not going to turn him away when we have a ceremony because he's a different tribe or he's not indigenous. We have to open those doors. It's time, and we can't be turning people away. And then we're all mixed now. The younger ones that are coming in are all mixed. And then what was the other question?
No, it's related about legal issues.
Okay. The legal issue is, to me, if we focus on praying and legalizing this, it's a step, and we could take 2 steps forward with this. But to having to invite people and to be focused, like, again, respect and honoring, none of that will conflict with anything. And if you're sitting in ceremony and you're non-native and somebody comes up, they can't, pull you out of there and say you're not part of this. The medicine does not allow that, not unless it's being used in not appropriate, maybe. And the way I see it is you have to use it right for it to work for everybody. If it's abused, that will come into, the energy will come, you're welcoming that energy in. And if you're sacred in that sacred space, you're always protected.
So it's less about whether you're indigenous or not, or Native American or not, but whether you're having a correct sacred attitude towards the plant medicine. And you were also mentioning before the importance of the role of women. Were you talking about, do you see women playing a kind of role in this era, or what were you referring when you were mentioning back there about us women?
For us women, it's that role. Years ago, I'd say 2112, it was a shift, and where I witnessed that the men now have given that role to the women. So there's a big shift that's happening, and it's like now we're stepping into our power, meaning that we are now the caretakers and the caregivers. We've always been, but we've been overpowered by the men, and now it's all female energy now. And so for us to tap into that and really set our intentions and our prayers and really stand that in that place. And now look, we're witnessing it. We got congresswomen in now, Native people in there. We got judges that are women now. And the roles it's opening those doors for us. And it's not coming in as the power. It's coming in with this feminine energy. It's being harmonizing everything, just like mother nurturing the babies, and that's what we're doing. And the men having to hold that space for us is a struggle, but it's having to really honor that for the women, and it's time for us to step up.
Awesome. I just feel it's really awesome that, to hear this. I was a little bit scared hanging out here in Arizona. Seemed like pretty macho land with open gun carry. But it's nice to see these voices coming from here. I just want to acknowledge something that I said in the panel, that we have a big psychedelic renaissance, and there's this big, frisson, and everybody's talking about it. And we're neglecting the Native American traditions and roots to all of this, because peyote is a legitimate native sacrament to this land, to the United States of America. And there's a lot of boom and a lot of charm and a lot of trend, and people go talk about ayahuasca, and every week there's a new celebrity talking that they're trying ayahuasca and they're doing this and they're doing that, and there's a new TV ad, a new dumb documentary, but there is traditions in this land that have deep roots, that have connection to the land, to the people, to the territory, to identity, to deep meaning. And these voices are being frequently neglected. Peyote as a species is also being frequently forgotten. Peyote faces a huge ecological threat. It's getting shorter and shorter. It's harder and harder to find peyote, and there's very little being done about this. And I think it's just awesome that this conference is being held in Arizona, and we're talking to a Dine woman full of her power and generous about inclusion of non-native people, and are participating as a legitimate voice, and alongside with scientists and PhDs and all of that, and spreading her message. So just want to round up by saying, perhaps wondering, how are you experiencing being here, or why did you accept to participate in this conference?
Well, for me, it was really coming back to prayer again, to coming back into our heart, to getting grounded and rerooted again, as like the plant medicine. It's like the root, and it's very giving, and for us to be in that place and to receive. And really, it's for the next generation, for our children and for our our grandbabies and their grandkids. You know, for me, that's what it's about. And as example, for me, I have 7 grandchildren right now, and they all sit with us in lodges as little as 7-year-old, and they're learning the ways and not forcing them. They're willing and opening to learn. They want to learn the medicine way, and that's what it is, because our children's coming in with more light and more energy of in their medicine, and they're sharing that, and we got to nurture that, the children now that are coming. But we have to clean ourselves first too. We have to clear that for them. And that's why I have chosen this road and this path, that I have to do intense work, not like slowly but fast. And the medicine helps that too. They're going back into the question you just asked earlier about the medicine as the being here in Arizona. It's really all like, again, respect and honoring. And for us Native people, we don't go out and advertise or share too much, because as us as indigenous people, I'll speak for the Navajos and the Dine people, is that we are good caretakers of the land, and we do what we can, and it's basically forgiving others that have harmed the earth or harmed the medicine or harmed anything. And for us is really going in and making the offerings for others, even though it's abused, the land's being abused, or in an environment, we go out and we pray for them. We pray for others, and that's what our role is. And I do that daily. It's a big responsibility for us as indigenous people to do that kind of work, to be there and sit with the land and the earth and just offer our prayers and shed our tears, and forgiving all the human people that don't see that, that are not honoring them in that way. And that's what our responsibility is. And we don't share that. We just go our daily lives that way, because that's how we were in years and years of our life, and our ancestors and our grandmothers and grandparents.
All right, Naomi, thanks a lot. I just want to remember everybody that she opened the conference with some prayers and blessings. Thanks for sharing these words with us, and keep on following us. There's more to come from Arizona, the Arizona Psychedelic Conference. Big hug from Bialabachi and the Chacruna team.